Right, so let's talk sheaths. So what is a sheath? Well, a sheath essentially is a way of getting your knife from A to B without sticking a hole in yourself. I mean, you could just carry it and then you run the risk of falling over, sticking yourself, sticking someone else, scaring someone, dropping it, damaging it in some way. It makes it handy to have, but not a particularly good way of carrying it. You could wrap it up in a bit of material, stick it in your bag. That would be probably a safer way to carry it than just wandering around with it. Doesn't make it super accessible though. You could argue you don't need your knife super accessible. Well, depends what you're doing really, but essentially people need a way of getting their knife around. So you have a sheath. Now it could be made from some kind of plant material, whether that's processed plant material, so cotton, canvas, grasses, leaves, bamboo, wood has been a popular choice before, still is, some types of knives. Metal's strong, can be shaped fairly easily, although give a knife maker a piece of metal and they prefer to make a knife than a sheath out of it, but you could make one out of metal. We're in the plastic sort of modern age, so rubbers, I guess that's type of plant material, but plastics, very popular. And another very popular one is leather. I guess you can also adorn them with stone and various things, but essentially for a custom knife maker, the main choice is going to be leather. Leather's got lots of advantages. First, it's supple, it moves, it's fairly easy to shape. You can sew it together. It's strong. You can't really break it. Keeps the knife in good, firm, solid position. The knife just locks in place, and it's even kind of cut resistant, especially when you put a welt inside it, which you kind of need to do so that the knife fits in, closes up. We'll have some sort of a retention system on it generally to stop the knife from jumping out, although not always. Sometimes it's more just the fact that the knife sits deeply in the pouch that holds it in. Generally you'll have some sort of belt loop, although you could just throw it in your pocket or attach it to a pack or something like that. This one hasn't been coloured, but the other advantage of leather is that you can dye it and colour it pretty much any colour that you want. This is another one, a much nicer one than the first one perhaps. The knife sits deeper, but again, essentially the same sort of thing. It's got a belt loop. The knife sits in, stops you from stabbing yourself. It's got a welt running along the inside and it's stitched. So leather's a really good option. The other advantages with leather, well, it's a natural product. That's always nice. It feels really good and it looks really good. A nice leather sheath looks nicer than almost anything else, I feel. It's comfortable to hold. It's just a nice material. It doesn't get sort of hard and brittle. It doesn't get soft and floppy. It's just a nice all-round material. There are disadvantages to it though. First, it can scratch fairly easily. You can mar it, and some people call them battle scars, memories from when you scratch your sheath. But yeah, it does. You do need to look after it. Also, you need to treat it. I use Snow Seal to treat mine, just to keep the leather in good condition, stop it from drying out, stop it from getting too damp. Now, the other thing with leather is that being a natural material and being porous tends to hold moisture. This is not particularly good if you've got a carbon blade. You're essentially sticking it in a moist, potentially warm environment where moisture will come in and out of the sheath depending on the ambient conditions, and it can cause your blade to rust. A stainless blade, that's less likely to happen, but can still happen even with stainless. So the best thing is, if you've got a leather sheath, is to not leave the knife in it when it's stored. Now the other thing, being a natural material, is that if you're wandering through the bush and across a river or something and the knife gets, or the sheath gets wet, it gets soft. And it's fairly stiff at the moment, but when it gets soft, the retention on the blade loosens, makes it easier for the knife to fall out. Also, it gets really soft. If it's sitting on your hip and you go to push it in, it can bend, and the knife actually ends up pushing through the sheath and into your hip. Don't laugh, I've seen it happen. I think it's kind of bizarre, but yeah, so leather does have some disadvantages. Doesn't happen very often though, and like I said, it just looks much nicer than other things. Other things that I find actually work really well is Kydex. Now what is Kydex, you say? Well, Kydex is plastic. And you go, ooh, I don't want a plastic sheath, but Kydex is a special kind of plastic. It's a thermoformed plastic, and it can be finished quite nicely. Essentially what it is a piece of fairly stiff but somewhat flexible plastic, smooth side and a textured side. It comes in lots of different colours: green, black, orange, pink, camouflage, digital camouflage. There's many colours. Now, Kydex is resistant to moisture, it's resistant to chemicals, blood, salt, sweat, petrol, mild acids, even fairly strong acids, glues, don't affect it. It's pretty much just wash it off, keep on going. Doesn't hold moisture, so your blades don't rust. It's a really good stuff. Also, the retention on it is locked up solid if you make it right. So the blade clicks in like that, and that's not going anywhere, and you just pull it out again, put it back, locks into place. Same with this one, pull it out, lock it in. Love that click. This one's a little bit different, this one, in that I've put a mechanical screw retention system on it. Push it away from you, and it's slightly easier to remove, but still has really good solid lock up. Push it away from you, and it pulls tighter, makes it harder to pull out. You still can, just gives it a little bit more retention. And for this one, I've put a leather loop. It's designed to be wearing on your hip, but you can change that round. The other thing with Kydex is you use these eyelets, and the eyelets, this one's designed for neck hang, this one is designed for belt hang, but you can strap it to things, you can tie it to things, you can lock it into things. It's really good. Does it have any disadvantages? Yes, it does. First off, it's not as good looking, I feel, as a nice leather sheath. I mean, it's practical, it's tactical to a certain extent, if that's the look you want, or you can make it non-tactical. But it doesn't look quite as nice as leather, and doesn't feel quite as nice as leather, in my opinion anyway. Doesn't feel rough or anything. It's strong. Now the Rockwell hardness on the Kydex is around 90. On the blade, it's around 60, so It's a lot harder. Not saying you can't do things with it, but abrasion resistant, cut resistant, strong, really, really good stuff, but not without some disadvantages, mainly looks and feel. So aesthetically might not be as nice. The other thing is that it's thermoformed. What does that mean? So that means I heat up the piece of Kydex to around 175 degrees centigrade. Keep it at that temperature for a couple of minutes and it goes all floppy, bendy like an LP left in the back of your old man's Holden back in the days when we had albums or CDs. You then put your knife in it, wrap it around it, or put two pieces on top of each other, apply some pressure, leave it, come back, and it's formed the shape of the blade and your knife and your handle. Then you just need to put in something to hold it. So for these I use eyelets. For this I stitch. Eyelets are a lot quicker. And then you just do some basic shaping and tweaking. For here I put a little thumb ramp in so you can get your thumb in. Makes it easier to come out. This one doesn't. Choice is yours. And essentially it's going to stay like that forever unless you happen to have it on your belt, you get your trousers wet, you hang them in front of a fire, and the fire heats the sheath up, and then it melts. Okay, so maybe not, but don't get it hot again afterwards. You can leave it in the glove box of your car. I mean, you can stick it in boiling water to clean it. All that's fine. Just if you get it to about 150, it starts getting soft. 175, it'll lose its shape. Above that, it'll just turn into a puddle or burn. So it does have its weaknesses. Know what leather did. If you heat it up too much, it'll probably burn as well. The other thing is, if you dunk it in a bucket of liquid nitrogen, take it out, hit it with a hammer, it will crack. So saying you can get cold, you can be in the snow, you can jump into a fjord and break through the ice with it, no problem. But liquid nitrogen, hammer, that's a no-no. So Kydex is something I like. Also, the speed. I can make a Kydex sheath, in a day. I can make a leather sheath, probably in two, because you've got to make a welt, you've got to glue it, I've got to stitch it. Stitching for me is a lot longer than for slapping some rivets in. Both of them use somewhat specialised tools. You can do this in your kitchen probably without any real tools except a drill and some eyelets and a hammer. I use more specialised tools, but essentially that's all you need. Leather, again, I mean, you could just do it with a knife to cut the leather and a needle to sew it, but it's nice to burnish the edges and to do little markings and things. I've got tools for both. I prefer to use Kydex now because my Kydex skills are better than my leather skills. It's not mine, that's a bought one, but my leather skills, my stitching, I get better with practice, but I get better with practice with this, and I find this easier and faster. And again, since I use carbon steel, I know that if I supply a knife in a carbon, in a sheath like this, there won't be any, or there will be less rust issues than in a leather one. Now I'm going to bring you back soon because we'll be making a Kydex sheath for a knife. But that's my general thoughts on sheaths. Light leather, prefer Kydex at the moment. That could change. I've actually been playing around with the concept of hybrid ones, which has a Kydex liner covered in leather, just for aesthetics, makes it heavier. But yeah, Kydex at the moment for me, easier to work with, easier to form and shape, quicker, really good option. Probably make a Kydex sheath for this one soon as well. Yeah, thank you.